Hi, and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things that it takes to be a professional musician, aside from actually playing your instrument, which we kind of take as a given in this world. I am Emily Dolan Davis. I've been a drummer since 1999, professional since 2008, and helping others to turn pro since 2018, and that is why we're here today. So let's start out with a Patreon shout out. Today I wanted to give a shout out to Simone Smith, or I think it's Simone, it might be Simone, I'm not sure, because it's possible that they are Italian or something like that. I don't know, and I never really worked this out. And the reason that I say this is because Simone, I'm going to call them Simone, was a firm favourite in the live streams that I used to do, especially over COVID when I was live streaming from my studio, recording and all of that. And they would always pop in. They are very into cars and vintage records. And I weirdly remember about their cat also. But anyway, massive shout out to Simone. Thank you for not just being a supporter of this podcast, but also just generally. It's always lovely to see you. And it's going to sound weird because we've never met or anything, but I miss you, and I miss chatting to all the live stream people. And I think I definitely would like to book in a live stream session. I'm just thinking about this because internet is not great where I am sometimes, so I don't want that situation where I'm live streaming and then it ends up being like all awful and like blah. But we shall see. As I mentioned on a previous episode, I'd like to do a live episode where I answer lots of little questions, because I've had a lot of little questions come in over the last sort of few months that are not worth a whole episode. Like, I don't think I could talk on it for a whole episode, so I just thought maybe I should collect a bunch of little questions and answer that. But anyway, that's down the line, because as I mentioned, we're coming up to episode 200, and I think that will be quite a nice way to mark that. But yeah, we shall see. I need to work out internet issues basically to make sure that there's some sort of stability in the actual live stream, so we shall see. But anyway, welcome to this episode. So today's episode is actually inspired by someone that wrote in a question. If you yourself have a question, you'll feel free to ask me whatever you fancy, really. If you go to emilydrums.com/AMA, as in ask me anything. Now this one is from an anonymous person, and they were asking, right, hi, if I have a down period where I feel no inspiration and practicing is boring, what would you suggest to reignite the spark? Okay, so this is a really great question, I think. I think we've all been in this situation where the inspiration spark has gone, or we're just like, oh. And in fairness, you know, not just musically, but sometimes I get this with doing my podcast, and it's because often I feel overwhelmed in other areas of my life, or I don't feel like, my thing is I like to try and bring as much value or insight or anything along sort of in that sort of realm, and I have to be in a very particular headspace to be able to do that. By the way, side note, that's why I was not here last week, and I apologise for that. It was basically, I'm finishing up my degree for the year. I'm in year 4 of 6, I'm doing it part-time, and I had one essay due, which I did, and then straight away I've had to jump into this other essay for the end of the year, so I'm kind of in that last little hurdle, is that the right word? No, the last stretch of this year. So it's been a bit chaotic, along with just general life things, you know, just general living life is always, it feels like a bit of a balancing act. So yeah, it all did me over last week, and it was like a tidal wave. It took me under, but I'm back up. Head is above water right now, just about, maybe even more than just above my neck, maybe shoulders and torso a little bit. But yes, anyway, that's why I wasn't here last time, so apologies for that for last week. But the point is, I think we all suffer from this kind of lack of inspiration and just feeling really lethargic and stuff like that. It's part of it. It really, really is part of just being a human generally, being a creative. You know, creative energy is not something that I think that we can sustain all of the time, because that's the very nature of what makes it creative. It needs to have that ebb and flow. It needs to have positive and negative influences, if you want to go sort of binary with it. But there needs to be almost like pressure, I think, to create good art in whatever that is. I really do believe that, and that could be pressure in the moment, it could be after the fact, it can be leading up to the maximum pressure, but I think that almost sometimes things like this, like, did you use the word boredom? I can't actually remember. Yeah, you said practicing is boring. Sometimes I believe that we have to have that feeling of boredom to kind of, like, I've found this at least. I it's not so much boredom as procrastination I get, but it got me to a point where I will often be like, right, I get sick of myself. I'm sick of it. I'm just like, right, I'm just going to go do something. And often that is the catalyst for the next little energy burst. So I wanted to just talk through a few of my thoughts on this question to do with, feeling no inspiration, feeling bored by practicing, because those to me are two very different things. I don't know if you feel that too, and about reignite, like how to reignite the spark. So when it comes to specifically feeling sort of not feeling inspired to play your instrument or whatever, and having a bit of a lull, again, I think that is normal. Well, I know it's normal. I think it's essential in a weird way, because I think it makes you think about things differently, maybe approach things differently, because it's just like, woof. Also recognizing that we all have different ways that we work, and I literally did this to myself yesterday. I was really annoyed with myself, to be honest, because I've been trying to write this essay, right? And so there's two parts to this. I've done one of the essays, but I'm on to the second part that I thought in my head would be the easier one. I thought, get the harder one done first, so do the easier one next. I was so wrong. There's just so much material to cover. But anyway, I'm in the research stages, and yesterday I was doing a few hours on it, and I was really like into it. It's in the morning, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right, I'm just going to have a break and have some food for my breakfast. Massive, massive mistake. I guess all the blood rushed to my stomach, and I was just like, just all lethargic and just like, oh my God, I can't actually face doing this. So anyway, I had a little lie down for like 10 minutes, and I was like, right, I was talking to myself. I was like, right, I'm going to convince myself to do this. It's like, right, I'm the kind of person that, perseveres through, even if I'm not feeling something, I just get on with it. And I was sort of doing this sort of like self-talk. I was trying to attribute personality traits to the kind of actions that kind of person would take, therefore I should take that action. So anyway, this is literally how I spend time with myself, like, welcome to my brain. And I got up and I went to go continue, and after 5 minutes, when I tell you, everything in my body was like, no, you're not doing this. This is not the way to do it. And by forcing myself, I ended up making it so much worse, which is really annoying, because over the last sort of, I don't even know how long, maybe 3 or 4 years, I've really tried to lean into my own strengths and weaknesses, I suppose. Like, I have strengths, but man alive, do I have a lot of weaknesses. And one of the biggest challenges that I have is my energy levels, because they deplete very quickly for me. Like, I can be, when I have energy and when I'm inspired, as you're saying, I can be so motivated. Oh my gosh, I can just get on with it. I will go at the speed of light. I get into this hyper focus mode. I just know how to do it. When I'm in my element, I'm in my element. It is nowhere near sustainable, but I know that, and therefore I know how to get a lot done in a very short period of time. There's always a trade-off where I'm knackered for the rest of the day or the next day or even a few days later. That is just how I roll. And I know this about myself, and I know that if the energy isn't there, because I've done this in the past, where I would force myself and go, you know what, I don't care that I'm not feeling it, I'm going to try. And I have in the past made myself physically like ill because of it, because of pushing through. Like, my body has visceral reactions to not working with my energy flow, if that makes sense. So the reason that I say this is that I think that it is worth looking at your own sort of, let's call it inspirational energy that you have to play with. Because don't get me wrong, sometimes we can't afford to have inspiration. Sometimes the job just needs to get done. And whether that inspiration turns into motivation because it's like, well, time is motivating me right now to do it, that's fine. You will find that energy. There will be a trade-off, of course. But let's talk about igniting that inspiration, first of all, because I think that is really useful to talk about. I feel like inspiration is a luxury for sure. When it strikes, take it with both hands, use it to your advantage, but it's not normal, at least in my experience, it's not the consistent state. It can be for a period of time sometimes, but not like in life, just across your life. I don't think anyone feels inspired all of the time. I think you do have to sort of like cultivate it. And the way that I do that, the way that I have done it in the past as well, is I often try to reconnect with the initial reason that I'm doing something. So whether that's playing my instrument and practicing, whether that initial kind of thing that drew me in, whether it was certain drummers or reading or watching or listening to certain interviews, and I will revisit those things and I will just remind myself how I felt when I was a kid, when I first heard that, and how exciting it was. And often that will help, like it definitely will. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay, and coming to terms with that, very difficult. When it comes to things like this podcast, I just think about my 14-year-old self, the kind of thing that would help me. I think about all the people that are listening right now, even if I don't actively know who you are. I do think about you to kind of motivate me in those moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, like that is the reason that I'm doing this right now. Like if I gave in to how I'm feeling today, I probably would have like not recorded this episode and left it another week. And I will say that there is an element of guilt that definitely comes with that, which is not necessarily good, but it kind of works, so it's fine. And I slotted it into my day in a period of time where I knew that I'd have a little bit of energy, because I've just had my hair cut. New haircut, if you can see it, if you're watching this, if you're able to watch this. I knew that, because I love my hairdresser like so much, he's a friend, and so I knew that I would have some social energy because we chat, we catch up, like he's the best, he's so fantastic. If anyone wants to go get their hair cut and you live in the Enfield area, look up Vince Bavetta, he is fantastic. I've been going to him since, when, 2012 maybe, something like that. So I've been, earlier, probably 2011, maybe 2010, but yeah, fantastic hairdresser. Anyway, I knew that. And then I know that I've also got a therapy session in about an hour and a half's time. So I knew that probably chances are after that I'm going to be pretty emotionally depleted, but I think I can sustain my energy levels until then. So I've just kind of placed this in a period of time that is likely, hopefully, to be useful to the energy that I have and that I need for the rest of the day. I will tell you now, I've written off the rest of the day. I've just got a copy of Final Fantasy 15 Royal Blood, which I've never played because I'm super scared of the new type of gameplay. I love turn-by-turn fighting, and this is real-time fighting, and it isn't in my repertoire at all. I find it quite stressful, but I'm persevering because it is I'm really enjoying it so far. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Well, do I digress? Well, yes, but I'm going to come back to this. So, I think, as I said, reconnecting with the initial reasons that you do what you do, I think it's a really great way to not just reconnect with your former self, but also see how far you've come. And the fact that you're not feeling inspired right now is okay. Like, it's gotten you to this point. And I think that's good, just reconnection, reasons. I think it's the reason why we do things is very important when it comes to that. What I will say is that sometimes also, as I've mentioned many a time, it could also just be burnout. Like, you don't have to be inspired all the time. You can't be. And sometimes, all of this, whether you're inspired or motivated or whatever, it's still going to take energy. It's still going to take you time, energy, and it is not endless. We need all the other stuff in our life to replenish, good sleep, good food, socializing. That's something I'm not great with, to be honest. I love being by myself, I really do. But, I do recognize that socializing does give me some sort of energy in certain circumstances. Exercising, all these sorts of things, and sometimes you do just need to take a break from gunning it, is how I put it always. Like, I'm often gunning it when it comes to most things, especially to do with my career. I've gotten better, I think, at balance. I'm always trying to get better at balance. It's definitely not my forte, to say the least, which I'm pretty sure you've recognized about me by now. But yeah, balance I think is good. So sometimes when you're feeling a lack of inspiration or you're bored bored with the practicing side of stuff, sometimes I think just stepping away is good. And when I've found myself in those positions, particularly with playing and practicing and all of that, I will take a day and I will, for me, the one of the best ways to recharge and just to reassess is to go for a walk. So I will go for long walks, like hours and hours. And whether that's in nature, whether that's in cities, whatever, it doesn't matter. I quite enjoy walking around cities and seeing people, seeing the lives that all these thousands of people are living, each with their own narrative going on, each with their own problems, their own joys. Like, you know, it makes me feel connected and outside of myself, because sometimes I can get a little too inside myself, I think, and overthinking. It's one of my favourite traits, and by favourite I mean prominent, not favourite by choice. But yeah, so I think that kind of helps me at least. So maybe literally taking a step back, and for me movement definitely helps with inspiration, as in either walking, also driving. Weirdly, I think just covering ground and being present, because I would say, you know, one of my go-tos, and I'm sure people listening are the same, is when I'm feeling that way inclined and like a lack of inspiration and a lack of, or boredom, or however you want to put it, the first thing I'll do or think about doing is, oh, let me just watch something. Let me just play my game. Playing my game is not too bad, but I think moving is really important. So yeah, I'd say just taking a break, essentially. The other thing is maybe being creative in a different way, like finding inspiration in different creative endeavors. For instance, for me, cooking. Like, I find cooking really inspiring a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, if I'm exhausted, sometimes I'm like, I am not about it. But maybe I'll go and eat a nice meal somewhere, like go take myself out for lunch or something. Just a little lunch. It doesn't need to be some extravagant madness. But, you know, just tasting something nice or like something authentic, I think is a really beautiful way just to decompress. Also treat yourself nicely as well. That's always really good. And the other thing I find that's really useful, like when I'm personally cooking, if I am able to cook for someone else, that also really helps me, because I find that my lack of inspiration and boredom, it really does come from being too insular. So I think reaching out to people outside of myself, you know, other humans, is actually a really good way for me to just allow my brain to take a break. Because I don't know about you, but if I'm feeling like uninspired and I'm meant to be being inspired, I start to really overthink it, get inside my head, start to feel really guilty about it, start to beat myself up about it, start to feel like there's something broken in me that needs to be fixed. And actually, like, and I'm talking to myself here because I still struggle with this. I literally had this last week where I was so inside of myself and I just didn't know how to get out. It was really, really difficult. Like, I get into these spirals where I'm trying to make sense of something that has happened or is happening, whether is it often, I guess so, yeah, triggered like externally from an external event. But then the internal battle happens, and it rarely involves other people. It's more making sense of, well, why did that happen? And why did I react that way? And what is the actual truth? And maybe this means that, and maybe that means that. And I work myself up into a tiz is the only way that I can explain it. And it just, like I say, it just spirals. It's like this whirlwind, and this turns into like a tidal wave that just drags me down. So yeah, I think just trying to break those patterns of like being inside yourself, being in your own head, also beating yourself up about the fact that you're not inspired or bored or whatever else, because that's okay. Like, that's fine. It kind of, sometimes great things come from boredom. But in saying that, let's talk about more ways to kind of cultivate inspiration, because as I've sort of mentioned briefly, I find other ways to find inspiration. So yeah, you can go back to why you started playing your instrument or whatever else, got into music or whatever your creative thing is that you're feeling uninspired about. But what I'll often also do, aside from walking and all of that, is go and see inspiring things, but not to do with music. Because sometimes I just can't face music. I just can't, like, I instead will listen to a podcast, say, or an audiobook, or I will go out and I will look at art. That's usually my thing. I will go to art galleries, but often it's personally. So this is just, and in fact, I'll go into this because this is a funny conversation I had with someone the other day. So I'm just realizing this now, actually. What it is for me is when I'm feeling uninspired or overwhelmed or anything, bored or anything in that kind of realm, I need to feel connected to people. But I often find it very hard to connect with people. This is going to sound like complete oxymoron. So I love to feel connected to people, but yeah, I find it very hard to like reach out to people and allow myself to be vulnerable with them. So what I do, and as I say, I'm kind of just understanding this about myself right now, is I will go to either really old buildings or I will go to art galleries with really old paintings, and I will think about the thousands upon thousands of people that have passed through the same space of an old building that I am right now. I'm thinking about all of the different, as I said before, you know, when I'm walking through town and I'm noticing, you know, people's own narratives that are going on, all the lives that they're living, and we're just in this space together passing each other. I find the same thing when I go into old buildings, when I look at old artworks, and just thinking about the connection to those people in the past, but in this space. And that inspires me. That puts into perspective for me kind of the impermanence, I suppose, of our lives, which scares me also. I then will hopefully not get into a spiral about that, about death and all that. But anyway, that's another story for another time. Gosh, this feels like a very dark episode, doesn't it? We're just trying to be inspired here. But yeah, that's what I will do. I think it actually, what happens is, and again, I'm just kind of thinking about this in the moment, I think that breaks the spiraling pattern for me. It kind of gives me a little bit of perspective. As I found out recently as well, reaching out to friends and just being honest about the fact that I'm feeling uninspired or struggling emotionally or whatever else, that also breaks the pattern for me. That is very much a personal thing though, purely because I find it so hard, and I'm used to kind of just internalizing these things. So anyway, so those are the things that I do when it comes to that. Now, the second part of what you were saying was about when you're saying practicing is boring, which I find really, really interesting, because I can hard relate to this. And as I look back on my sort of career, the moments where I felt most bored with playing is when I felt most directionless, I suppose, and maybe out of control. It's often because I'm working towards a goal that is very elusive, like just a general thing of generally being a professional musician. That is kind of the time that I get the most bored and frustrated and just like, why am I doing this, and like demoralized and all these things. So if I were in your position, this will ignite inspiration because you don't have a choice, or rather motivation, but also it will definitely curb the boredom, is putting yourself in a new situation that you don't have experience in. So for instance, you know, going to a jam night in a genre that you're not familiar with, or booking yourself onto a gig with an element about it that you're not familiar with, like for instance a reading gig or something around that. So even if you just plan to do a live stream of you playing, like for me what that would be is just free playing, for like just soloing for like 30 minutes or whatever, just playing for playing's sake. That to me in the past would terrify me, but let me tell you, very inspiring. Like, and as soon as you start doing it, it kind of ignites a different part of your brain, I think, and your playing or lack thereof, and it brings back the spark. I think there's something about fear and inspiration. It really helps me, definitely. So I think putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, that's going to get rid of the boredom. Let me tell you, there is nothing boring about feeling frightened about what you're about to do. And then you can sort of like take it from there. So whether it's something that you enjoyed and you want to expand on that, or maybe you, in your eyes, failed miserably, then you can sort of like work on coming back from that and working on certain things. And also, please don't see failure as failure. Definitely not. It's all learning. It's all I think if you take the onus off of failing or succeeding and instead just put it on, I'm just trying to be inspired, I think that's a really nice way of opening yourself up to new experiences, definitely, and it will be scary. But like I say, the inspiration will follow, even if it's like not negative inspiration, but there will be a spark. Let's just put it like that. There will be some sort of spark. You certainly won't be bored. You definitely will not be bored. So that is definitely good. Another side note that I will say as well, when it comes to like feeling a lack of inspiration or boredom and sort of coming back to this potential of it being overwhelmed, what I will also often do is look to other areas of my life. And if I feel that things are chaotic or out of my control, which I know none of us are really in control, not really, but I do need an element of order to my life and organization, because otherwise I feel chaotic and it makes me not able to feel inspired. Like I say, this kind of what happened to me last week, because I had this kind of this emotional moment that kind of was very unexpected, and along with doing this essay and all just my usual commitments, usual week-to-week commitments, that kind of threw a spanner in the works. And as it turns out, I don't have a lot of spare capacity to kind of deal with unexpected situations. This is what I learned. And unfortunately, this podcast is the thing that fell off the list, which is very disappointing, but I'm trying to be kind to myself. I'm trying, and I'm here, and, you know, I'm trying to be nice to myself about that fact. But anyway, yeah, so I think just looking at the outside things that might also be going on, whether that is to do with other elements of work, whether that is to do with, as I was saying, like fitness, balance of like fitness and being healthy, but then even just the physical space that you're either living in or practicing in. Often I will clear up. I'll just sort something out. Maybe it's that, you know, there's a bunch of paperwork, which I actually literally have over there, that is kind of giving you stress. Even if it's low level, it definitely all affects you, because again, as I say, inspiration is a weird thing. It's a very nuanced thing, I think, and it feels very elusive, actually, inspiration. But yeah, just, you know, if you're feeling bored or whatever, fine, take that time to do something boring anyway, since you're already feeling bored anyway. But yeah, I feel this is a very rambling episode, but it's an episode long nonetheless. But hopefully this gives you some sort of, if not just solace that we all go through this, also just some ideas that you can do to, or carry out to kind of kick it and see if anything sticks, and just trying things. I think trying out new things is new ways of doing things. Like, there must be and again, this is just how my brain works. I always want to look at the commonalities of the times that I have felt bored. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? What was I not doing? You know, and just finding out if there's any clues as to how you can minimize those feelings from coming up again, and maximize the things that you do want. And as I say, it's never going to be consistent as in 24/7. But the other thing is, and as cliche as it sounds, sometimes you need that contrast to really appreciate when you do feel inspired and you really want to play and you feel motivated. Yeah, so hopefully that helps in some way. I'm not sure, but we shall see. I hope that you are doing well, whoever you are and wherever you are and whatever you're up to right now as you listen to my dulcet tones. I hope they're dulcet. I'm not sure they are. But yes, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe if you're on YouTube or listening on any good podcasting platforms. If you would like to support this podcast, you can over on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/EmilyDrums. And if you have a question you'd like to ask me yourself, then you can go to emilydrums.com/AMA. And again, if you want to also do any one-on-one coaching with me, if you want to delve into exact things that you're struggling with your career, and if you're either in your career or trying to get there, then you can get in touch with me at emilydrums.com and we can get on a free discovery call to see if I can help you or how I can help you. Fingers crossed, because I do enjoy helping people, I must say. And that was a big part of the inspiration of me actually getting over the hurdle of starting to record this episode. So I thank you for that, because this podcast has been a real good consistent thing in my life for sure, and just knowing that I'm able to help people a little bit has certainly helped with my inspiration levels and trying to keep it sort of at a good level to a point. But we all struggle and we're not perfect, and I certainly am not. Look at my last week, lack of episode. Apologies. Anyway, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another episode subject. All right, I'll speak to you soon. Bye.